Whoa! Can you imagine if I started every video like that? Just yelled, whoa. Awesome. No, I won't do that to you. I thought I'd change it up a little bit, because every now and then it gets a little stale. Hey, what's up, guys? And from like for the first year of my videos, hey, cutlerylover here. Day. Alright, so, whoa, we got a knife review. Today we're looking at the CRKT Columbia River Knife and Tool Fire Spark in all black. Interesting. Very interesting knife. There's some things I like about this knife, there's some things I don't like about this knife, and this is a knife review, so welcome. First of all, this knife is kind of geared more towards military / police. You can see it's all blacked out and tactical and just awesome looking. It's got some pretty cool lines to it, and I like it, but there are some things I don't like about it. So right off the bat, let's talk about the stuff I don't like. Okay, get it off the table here. But before I do that, let's talk about some specs. Overall length on this open is 8.63 inches. All right, closed we have 4.75 inches, and the blade is 3.87 inches. Blade, we're looking at a hollow grounds 8CR14 MOV. It's coated in black oxide, and we have a spear point blade shape with a very acute point. All right, this blade came really sharp out of the box. It was definitely the sharpest CRKT knife I've ever had out of the box. I mean, very easily would slice phone book paper. I have not sharpened this knife since I had it. I've only stropped it, you know, after each day of use. Use this light to medium use. Didn't use it very hard, and that brings me to one of the things I don't like about this knife. This is marketed as a hard use knife. I would say that the CRKT Foresight, which is probably one of my favorite CRKT folders to date, is a much harder use knife in my opinion. Not so much from performance, but just from a comfort standpoint. The one hit, or there's actually two hits I want to make in this knife. The one biggest hit though is the overall feel of this. Although comfortable, the design fits very nicely in the hand. There's a lot of things I do like about it, but it just feels unfinished. And there's definitely a little bit of hot spots here and there because of the abrupt angle changes. All right, and the handle, you can see it's very squared off here. All throughout, all across the spine, particularly right here in the finger. Okay, you can see how thin that frame is, and it's very abrupt. Of course, when you add more steps into producing a knife, particularly a folding knife, or any kind of production knife for that matter, you add costs. So you put these back in the machines for another pass, and maybe round up all these corners for things, or do this, that, and the other thing. It's going to add cost to the knife, and also takes away from the overall design. Knife designers have a specific thing in mind, and although you or me may not particularly like the way something feels, they made it for a reason. It's not by mistake. If you have a knife and you don't like it, someone else may love it, and that's because you're looking for different things in knives, and everyone's different. Of course, the variety that's out there makes it hard to make a quote-unquote perfect knife. You may love this, the guy next to you may hate it, and vice versa. But the one thing, or one of the two things I don't like about this that was distinctive when I started using it, is that it just has a little bit of an unfinished feeling to me because of the abrupt angles. If you were to go throughout this entire knife and just take some, I don't know, some really fine sandpaper and just round off some of these edges, I mean, I would just be really happy with the finish after that. But can't have everything. This is a $50 to $60 knife, average price for this, and I think you're getting a lot for that money. But that is something that was noticeably bad, in my opinion. The frame here is an aluminum frame. See, it's coated black, and we have G10 inlays, so it's even with the frame itself. Okay, the handle scales. It's very nice. I mean, obviously it's all blacked out, cool looking. The other thing I don't like about it, before I get into all the things I do like about it, because there are a lot I love about this knife, but I don't like, by design, which is a really cool design, you have a free-floating core to your thumb stud. All right, so this moves back and forth freely. What this creates is a little bit of a clicky noise, a little bit of a rattle. Now, when your knife's open, you're not going to be laterally moving your knife a lot. Okay, you don't cut things like this. Hey, let me cut your box open for you. Unless you got the shakes, I suppose. But when it's closed, it rattles as well, but not quite as much. Now, why in the world is that freely floating like that? Well, this brings me to how this design works, which is very interesting. It's very cool, and I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again. I love Columbia River Knife and Tool for their innovation and for the variety of knives that they put out. They have a whole team of awesome, well-known, very, very talented knife makers, and they're constantly coming up with new stuff. And not only is it new and exciting and different and unique, it's also always affordable. Like I said, 50 to 60 bucks on average. Most of their knives they offer are less than $100. You're not looking at a knife and saying, oh, I kind of like that, but you know what? I don't have 200 bucks for it. I don't have $400 for it. You know, it's not some of these other things out there that, you know, obviously people want and love, but they just can't afford. This is very much in the realistic realm of, hey, I like that knife, I'll go buy it. Not a lot of people can do that with some of the higher end stuff. And when I say higher end, I'm really talking about the quite pricey stuff. So I do love the variety and the innovation that CRKT puts forth, but they do also have quality products. This is an assisted opening knife, but what's really unique about this knife is that by design, it will not allow you to push it open without pushing down on the thumb stud first, okay? Now the obvious purpose for this is that some people don't like assisted knives because when it's in the pocket, they have a fear of it opening, okay? They don't want to nudge the blade and start that process of opening it and have it open up in their pocket. It's gonna be wedged in there. It's gonna be hard to get to. If it opens up when you don't know about it, you may reach in and cut yourself. So this eliminates that issue of it opening in the pocket, all right, which is awesome. And it's also really unique in that the blade, or excuse me, the liner locks into the blade. That's what doesn't allow this to move forward. So let me explain further. I'm gonna move my camera down and give you better detailed shots of this that hopefully aren't so fuzzy. So here we have, let me open it first and show you this. You can see it's a liner locking knife. Okay, so there's our liner. Moves over, locks our blade, right? And by the way, the lockup on this is superb. Liner locks usually have a little bit of play in it. This is really, really tightly locked up. And when I noticed by looking at this, we have a black oxide coated blade, but you can see the coating is polished off here. And on the very base, I'll move this over and give you a good angle of this. I don't know how well you can see this. There's a little black square on the base of the blade right in there. All right. And that, to me, that's a high spot. That's where it was not polished. Obviously the coating's still on there. And that basically made a smaller shelf so that the liner fits. When they basically fitted the lock to the blade, they left the other side still coated, so it prevents the lock from moving over a little bit more. Eventually that'll wear off, but for right now, it's a really, really solid lockup because of it. But anyway, all right, let's close this knife and take a look at this mechanism a little bit more. So we have our liner that's moved over and it's actually locked into our blade, so that when you go to open this knife, how you normally would push on the stud, it will not open. This prevents, again, your knife from opening up in your pocket. In order to open this knife, what you have to do is push down on the thumb stud, which pushes through the blade itself and pushes your liner over and out of the way. So let me show you this a couple times so you can see this working. It's pushing your liner lock over. All right, the way this is locking into your blade is right on the liner. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but there's a little pin sticking up. It's right in there. Let me push this liner over so maybe you can see a little better. The little pin that's sticking up, and there's a better shot of it. That little pin locks into the hole right there. So as your blade moves around, okay, and you're closing your blade, you'll see our liner pushes up and locks into our blade. They sandwich together, they pinch together, okay? That prevents your blade from opening on accident. So to open it, again, you're pushing down your thumb stud, which is moving your lock over, and then you basically flick it out just a little bit. I did find that there's certainly a little bit of time it takes to get used to this design. Mostly when I grab a folding knife with thumb studs, I grab around here. It's about the 4 to 5 o'clock position, and I want to just flick it up and out. And I've talked about this in past videos, flicking a blade out. Basically, you're pushing upward pressure and then pushing over at the last second, that flicks it out. This is obviously not going to open this knife. You have to put downward pressure first, which is awkward. Most of the time, you don't naturally want to push down in your thumb stud. You're kind of holding the edge of it. But with this, you want to push down and then barely moving your finger to get that blade out. Okay, it's assisted. You can see our bar on the back. Okay, this is our spring steel. This is putting pressure on this blade the entire time. When you initiate the blade open, just a little bit, that pressure is released and then flicks our blade all the way out into the open lock position. All right, but you really do not have to move your finger much. When I first got this knife, I naturally wanted to flick out. Once I realized I had to push down, I pushed down and flicked out, but my thumb motion naturally went forward and I caught the blade. I didn't cut myself, but I almost did because I caught the blade right in the side and then kind of swept off of it like that. So just be a little bit careful. I mean, this thing is ridiculously sharp when it's brand new, and because of this new mechanism, there is a little bit of a dangerous time there that you have to go through to really get used to this this new feature. All right, so just be wary of that. Just be careful of it. Also, a very, very fine point too. So if you're one of these people that quickly, you know, close their folders, don't, because if you quickly close it and your pinky's down here in the way, all right, that little fine point, extremely pointy and extremely thin and sharp, that will certainly take the tip of your pinky off. All right, so be careful doing that. All right, just be wary, push down and barely move your thumb, and it'll do all the work for you. And just obviously close it cautiously. Overall, I think the design's pretty cool. I like a full 4-finger choil. It's always very comfortable, but as already mentioned, abrupt sides or abrupt angles on the sides of the frame, you know, leave a little bit to be desired there. Of course, there's jimping all across the top here. Because there's a coated blade, it takes a little bit away from the grip that the jimping is there for, but it's still quite grippy. There's no thumb ramps or anything. It's a very sleek, slick looking design, which is pretty cool. As I mentioned before, aluminum handle scales here with G10 inlays, which are flush with the handle. Very cool overall with the design. Another thing I like about this blade is a spear point blade, and you have a big heavy swedge on this, so it creates a nice thin point. Now this could be good or bad. If you like to really use your knives hard, a thin point's not very good because you have a possibility of snapping off or damaging it. If you're using your knives for medium to light work, it's superb because you have a lot of control, and that fine tip will be awesome for penetration. Even something as simple as opening a box. I've said this before, when you go to open a box with any knife, generally speaking, you don't use your edge first. All right, if my box is flat on this table, I don't open it like this. Okay, if nothing else, the handle gets in the way in your fingers. What we all do, and what a normal person would do, is start opening that box with a tip. We would pierce the tip. So when you talk about different knives and different types of blade designs and stuff like that, and we're talking about penetration, well, I'm never going to stab things. No, you may not hold it like, you know, Michael Myers and stab into a box, but take note that you will always use your tip first to pierce into the box and then usually drag across. A lot of times when you have your knives that are dull, the base portion down here by the ricasso is usually pretty darn sharp because a lot of people don't use this. For most cutting tasks, you're using the first half of your blade. All right, so just keep note of that. A very pointy or acute tip is beneficial for light to medium use. But anyway, what I was talking about is that I like how the base of the blade here ends abruptly with this choil. Now it's not just a perfect half circle choil, but there is a blade choil in here. So all the way to the very edge of our cutting edge is razor sharp. All right, when you have a straight line here, and you'll see this on a lot of cheaper knives, you get that weird abrupt angle change where, okay, it's sharp, it's sharp, it's sharp. Now it's like, it's kind of dull, and now it's not sharp at all, and it's a weird spot right here, and it's almost like wasted blade. By doing something like this, it makes sharpening easier, particularly on a stone when you're freehand sharpening. You can start from the very butt of that blade all the way to your tip, so it makes your sharpening process easier, but also allows you to take advantage of the full length of your edge. So I really like that as well. Pocket clip on this is swappable for all 4 positions. You can see I kept it tipped down. This is how it comes to you from factory. Right side carry, tip down. Had no problems with this whatsoever. Because of the design, I'm not worried about opening in the pocket or anything like that. Some people, they do worry about assisted openers. And some, whether it's assisted or manual, people tend to like a tip up carry, if nothing else, because they want the spine of their blade to be up against the side of their pocket. Okay, if it's, tip up, or excuse me, if it's tipped down and your blade does open, it has room to open in your pocket. When you carry it tip up, it literally can't open because your blade's up against the pocket. Plus, you know, I personally, I've talked about this before, I like a tip-up carry because the majority of the weight, usually around the pivot, is down in the pocket. I prefer that just for carry. It's a little bit more of a comfortable carry for me. I don't like when it's top-heavy. It feels like it's going to flop out of the pocket or it's going to be, you know, come loose. So I prefer that, but I did carry it like this simply because of the fact that I know I wasn't going to be using it really, really hard, and that's because I knew it was going to have some hot spots because of the design. What else we talk about? The blade coating is held up fairly well. Like I said, not really, really hard use on this. There's a little bit of wear on the back, but it's really not noticeable. The black oxide coating on this is adequate. Different companies use different types of coatings on the blades. They will all wear. Some wear faster than others. Whatever. You know, it's just, it is what it is. If you like an all black knife or, you know, something that's, you know, coated like that, it's not going to stay like that forever. If you're talking about buying knives for collecting and displaying, that's different. But as far as use, they'll all end up looking like crap eventually with some hard use. Also something to note is that there's both liners continue all the way around, obviously, and they form this double lanyard hole. It's oversized, so if you want to use, you know, thick paracord, you know, for your lanyards. I haven't used lanyards on folders that often lately. In fact, I stopped using them on fixed blades. I talked about that in a different video, just for safety purposes. But if you are someone who likes to add them, if nothing else, it's kind of artistic. It's, you know, making your knife look cooler for some people. And there's all kinds of awesome lanyard designs and different beads and stuff you can use. But if you wanted something like that, very, very easy to use to put on there. As far as feel, I don't like this. It's a slight hit. It's not a huge deal, but just with my size hands, when I grip this really, really hard, again, abrupt corners, a little bit uncomfortable down here. So with hard use, digging down, you know, putting your skin on this and really rubbing it, it's going to definitely create a little bit of soreness and tenderness on your hand. So by design, I think it looks cool. As far as function, a little bit of a hit on that. But that goes with the overall design of the knife and having more of a squared off handles on this. Something to consider is that when knife designers are making knives, they're, you know, maybe they want this overall design to be kind of slick and thin and sleek. You know, they don't want a chunky knife. So what happens is when you put such thin material on here, you don't have much room to taper and contour. You put, you know, G10 and you make the handle scales of the aluminum twice as thick, you have a little bit more wiggle room to actually contour your handles. So although, you know, you may agree with me and say, yeah, this looks uncomfortable, if you want a thin knife like this, generally speaking, it's not going to be really rounded. So it's all kind of, you know, one person's awesome knife is another person's crap knife. It's really what it comes down to. Some people are going to love this, some people are going to hate this. That goes for every single knife I've ever reviewed. It just depends on what you're looking for in a knife. A lot of you out there use your knives lightly. You will not ever, ever have an issue with this being uncomfortable for you, because you're not going to be gripping down and, you know, doing woods work with it. You're not going to be cutting 5,000, you know, cardboard boxes up at work or anything like that. You get to open your mail, you get to open a package every now and then. It's going to look cool and you're going to be really happy with it. But for some of you who are going to use it really hard, I would much, much rather suggest, as far as CRKT stuff, the Foresight. I think the Foresight will be not only much more comfortable for you, but in my opinion, it feels stronger in the hand, and I think it'll really last a little bit longer with really hard use. But just personal opinion. Anyway, Torx construction on all these screws, if you want to disassemble this and take a look at it. One thing I really love about this is it does sport the Lawks system, Lawks. Okay, and what this does, if you don't know, is you have a liner lock here, but by pushing this lever up, what you're doing is you're dropping down or pivoting a smaller L-shaped piece of steel that prevents that from coming unlocked. I've always been a huge, huge fan of the Lawks system for folding knives. Okay, it really, really does add durability and strength to your folding knives. What I like about their newer designs is that they've created a much smaller movement with the arm that actually locks that piece in. All right, so there's literally less movement you have to do with this piece. The older ones you may have been twice as the distance. It's not a huge. It's not like, oh my god, this is taking so long to move up. It's not like that. It's like a tighter. I don't know. That's kind of hard to explain. I just like how it's there's less movement on this, and this is manual. Some people do not like the auto locks. The auto locks has a spring system in there, so when the blade opens, all right, your normal liner lock engages, this automatically springs up. The problem people have with that is that, okay, they can't just, you know, move the liner over like they normally would. They have to push this down first, then move the liner, and it's like too much for them. Although I can handle a lock system, the auto locks, I much prefer this manual version of it. And I think in the manual version, like on this knife, it's perfect. And I love the added security that I'm locking my lock. Okay, I wish every single liner locking knife that's out there had this system in it. I would much prefer that. I really like it. It's a huge bonus on any of the CRKT stuff that they use it on. So very cool. Just prevents your lock from unlocking. Now, where that's really going to shine is when you do use this in a hard use situation. All right, if you're really cranking down on that blade, then you have the possibility of the thinner liner to move over, you know, from the downward pressure of the knife, if you're even using it in that sense. But it's just a fail-safe for a fail-safe. I like it. You can never be too safe with stuff like that, and it does add the durability to the knife. So, anyway, that's pretty much it. The weight on this is 5.3 ounces, but I can honestly say it doesn't feel like 5.3 ounces. I've had knives that are 5, 6, 7 ounces in that range, and they feel heavy and chunky. This doesn't. It carries well. So, I like it. I really like it. I don't like the rattle, and I would not use this for really hard use. Besides that, it's a very innovative knife. It's pretty cool looking, and I'm a sucker for any 4-finger choil knife on the handle. Kind of reminds me of like 80s style fighting knives. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. That is the Fire Spark from CRKT. Hopefully you enjoyed the review. Of course, any comments and questions, shoot down below. That's what it's there for. And even if you just want to say hey, and that's it. So thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate your time as always. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.